Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Sunday, December 17th, 2023, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Now Mind You podcast. Meow, 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 meow. This is episode 95 Combat, and we're your hosts. I'm TJ.
Matt.
Bryce had work today, but he'll be back as soon as he can. With that, what are we covering today, y'all? So, as far as the docket is concerned for combat, Matt is going to take us into two boxing events. We had Green versus Crews-Dezurn, and then, of course, we had Rodriguez versus Edwards. And then, as a crew, we will tackle UFC 296, Edwards versus Covington. Without wasting any further time, Matt, take it away.
All right. We're gonna go ladies first, and I'm gonna get into Franchon Cruz versus Shadeja Green. Franchon Crews-Dezurn, I'm sorry, versus Shadeja Green. Pretty much in this fight, Shadeja Green fought earlier this year. She pretty much came onto the scene. Recently she's been fighting on the undercards of Jake Paul. This was also a fight on one of his undercards for the fight that he had over the weekend as well. Um, but this is pretty much how she's coming to prominence, and she was pretty much looking to try to set something up to by beating Franchon Cruz, possibly setting up a fight with she and Clarissa. You know, they've been going back and forth on social media and things like that. And again, Shadesha is just known for her power punching and just for her strength, and pretty much no one's been able to stay in front of her. And Franchon has been the first person to be able to. Franchon was able to defeat Shadeja Green over the weekend, and pick up the WBC super middleweight title via a unanimous decision. She was pretty much just able to smother Shadeja the majority of the time when she was trying to get her punches off. To be honest with you, the fight was not very aesthetically pleasing. I'm just gonna keep it, just keep it 100. But all fights aren't going to be beautiful, so I get that. But it wasn't a very like fan friendly or aesthetically pleasing fight, but the job got done. And Shadeja Green, like I said, she won a unanimous decision across the board. She had 98-92 on one scorecard, and she had 97-93 on the other two scorecards.
Mm.
She was a super underdog coming into this fight too, so that was a pretty big deal. And it's a huge win for Franchon Cruz, and this kind of is going to set Shadeja Green back a little bit, just considering, and that this isn't to say that Franchon Cruz is a bum or anything like that, but just the way things shake up, and father time and stuff. Franchon Cruz is 35 coming into that fight.
Mm.
Um, but she used her experience and she was able to do what needed to be done, to get another world title underneath her, get another world title under her belt. So
Right.
good for her, you know.
Yeah.
On the other end, over on the zone, we had Jesse Rodriguez going up against Sonny Edwards. This was a unification bout at flyweight for the WBO flyweight title and the IBF flyweight title. Um, Bam was coming in with the WBO flyweight title, and Sonny Edwards coming in with the IBF flyweight title. Both guys being world champions, looking to unify. And man, you know what? This was one-way traffic. Bam had a distinct reach advantage over Sonny Edwards, 7 inches, which is significant in boxing, and it's definitely significant in the weight classes, especially as low down as flyweight is concerned for boxers. Early on, that very first round I thought was pretty close, but Bam obviously realized something after that first round, and he was in complete control from round two until the point that this fight was stopped in round nine. Um, he was able to get that jab going, and once his jab was able to, because he's a southpaw, so it was a southpaw versus an orthodox bout,
Mm-hmm.
and Bam was able to get his southpaw jab off the right hand, and by getting that right hand off, he was able to really swell up and put a lot of damage on the left side of Sonny Edwards, and really virtually close that eye up and put him in a situation where he was like a one-eyed fighter. He even said afterward that he was seeing double for the majority of the fight,
Oh,
out of one of his eyes, so he was having a hard time. He just said the jab was really, was really giving him trouble. But
Yeah.
Bam was in complete control. Bam was talking to him while they were in there. And the fight went up until the ninth round till it was ultimately stopped. So Bam Rodriguez comes out of this fight, the WBO and IBF champion. I guess he could probably, in my opinion, I guess he could unify, but I think at this point, I mean, listen, he's 23 years old and he's uh he's 23 years old. He's now a three-time world champion and a world champion in two different weight classes. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
I think that the world is his oyster at this point. He could unify, but I'd like to see maybe after Inoue clears out his next fight, and maybe after Bam unifies the division, if he can do that, possibly seeing these two guys fight because their dimensions are very similar.
Mm.
Bam is 5'4.5", 67-inch reach, and Inoue is 5'5" with a 67-inch reach. It's just Inoue fights a little bit heavier, not significantly heavier, but when you're talking about those lower weight classes, and then you also talking about a guy that's a power puncher, weight does matter. So,
Yeah.
so we'll see. But that pretty much concludes the boxing that I was gonna cover for the weekend. And we can hop over to the UFC, and we got UFC 296. TJ, you want to take us into that first fight?
Yeah, man. UFC 296, Edward versus Covington. I believe this was at the T-Mobile Arena
It
in
was. You were
Vegas.
correct.
Who do we have as far as the main card was concerned? I'll get into the first fight, but let's just give the main card, right? We had Emmett versus Mitchell at featherweight. We had Ferguson versus Pinlet at lightweight. We had Rachmanov versus Thompson at welter. We had Pantoja versus Royval for the flyweight title. And we had Edwards versus Covington for the welterweight title. Now, let me start us off with Emmett versus Mitchell. Look, Bryce Mitchell stepped in at the last minute to
Oh,
replace
you talking about to
uh
replace?
to replace Josh Emmett's original opponent, who I can't remember right now who that was. But look, um, so oftentimes the anime fan, combat sports fan Venn diagram is a circle. So I'm gonna just put it this way. You remember that time Genos wanted Saitama to spar with him for real, and Saitama just stopped short of annihilating Genos, and you just saw that fist and it said
Mm-hmm.
death on it. That was this fight minus the stopping short.
Oh,
The impact of that overhand on Bryce Mitchell's jaw was insane. Like Bryce Mitchell just crumpled in real time. Like there was no need. I think Herb Dean was like, I'm gonna just go ahead and grab you, Josh, because clearly this man is dead. We don't need additional damage. And I think Emmett had some pretty good self-control too, but he also kind of like flexed and yelled at Bryce's unconscious body. So I don't know.
rage.
But I'll just say kudos to Mitchell for the last minute step in. But that's a gamble when you take the fight last minute, right? Like, yes, your stock probably goes up in the eyes of the company bosses, but like that's also a bad knockout to suffer through. So I don't know, man. You got anything to add, bro? That was
He
insane.
had a fucking seizure after that fight.
Yeah, that's something you never usually wish on anyone.
Damn, you don't usually.
Wait, I didn't mean it like that. I didn't mean it like that. Well,
Well, yeah. Anyway.
you're right. Let's move past that.
Yeah, man.
Do you want to take it? I mean, there's not much to add if you want
Yeah,
to take
there's
us
nothing to
into
add.
Ferguson versus Pimblett.
Yeah, man. So we had Paddy Pimblett moving up to 155, and he was going up against Tony Ferguson. Tony Ferguson has been on a losing streak as of late. Pretty much has lost like what his last seven.
Yeah,
Um, let's see. What is this?
he
One,
hasn't been the same
two,
since Gaethje.
three. Yep. One, two, three, four, five, six. He's lost his last six fights. Coming into his fight against Paddy Pimblett, his last fight was back in July, where he was submitted by Bobby Green. Paddy Pimblett, on the other end, uh, came into the UFC recently. Really has been looking to make a name for himself, and really has been looking to kind of get the washed the bad taste out of his mouth from a year ago, when he fought Jared Gordon, and virtually everybody felt like Jared Gordon beat him.
That
And
was
the only
already a
people,
year ago.
yeah, the only people that felt like he didn't lose that fight were those three judges. And that fight was that was December 10th of last year. That was the last
Holy
time Paddy
shit.
Pimblett fought UFC 282. So he brought it back around, followed tradition, and he fought again on the last pay-per-view of the year. And this time he fought against Tony Ferguson. First round, Paddy came in, was throwing some good strikes. Um, However, he still was a little bit putting his chin in the air, and they even mentioned on the broadcast that he said his biggest thing that he wanted to work on was not sticking his chin up.
It kept
Um,
coming up though.
yeah, and he still was doing it, but it was the biggest thing he was trying to focus on, at least, was not sticking his chin up while he was fighting. And on the other side, we just needed Tony to get a win. And a lot of this, out more of the technical explanation, I'll pass that over to TJ when we get to it. But a lot of this really came down to grappling and grappling exchanges. And I thought Tony gave a really good account of himself on his back, like he usually does. But I felt like that ultimately was the problem. He wasn't able to stop the takedown from Paddy Pimblett. And Paddy, I felt like, was getting the better of him with on the feet as well. But once he got Tony on his back initially in that first round, though Paddy was applying the pressure, I would argue Tony was winning a lot of that exchange of just him fighting off of his back, just hitting Paddy with those elbows and throwing up submission attempts and stuff, because he wasn't really giving Paddy much of an opportunity to take advantage of the position as much as he was making Paddy defend himself from a dominant position, which is kind of
Yeah.
weird to say, but is in effect what was happening. Ultimately, though, the grappling, I think, was just too much, and that contributed to why Paddy ultimately was given the decision. Tony was trying to fight the entire way through, and Paddy definitely was blown up by that third round, definitely was gassed, but there was a lot of grappling exchanges. And ultimately, you know, Paddy walks away with a win. No, definitely nothing that he can put like a hallmark on, but definitely still a win over Tony Ferguson. You know what I'm
That's
saying?
one of the biggest names you could have on your resume.
Yeah, definitely a good name to put on his resume. Not that he has nothing to put in his highlight reel, but definitely has a name to put on his resume. And with that, I will pass it over to you, TJ.
Grappling wise, it was just a matter of Tony kind of overcommitting to his close guard. Like he was kind of alternating between close guard and rubber guard, which rubber guard is a 10th planet specific type guard where it relies a lot on a lot of crazy hip and knee mobility and flexibility. So it's not for everyone. But something to know too is like Eddie Bravo designed the 10th planet system specifically to, use jujitsu for MMA because you don't have a gi. But I don't know, it was just Tony kept committing to his close guard and being on his back, and to his credit, it's like he has had success there. But Paddy's also a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and also has quite a bit of grappling prowess. So Paddy was doing the right thing, not necessarily staying on his knees while in the guard, kind of staying more so on his feet and kind of pressuring down and raining down bombs when he could. But essentially, really, when it came down to it, was kind of nullifying Tony's strategy, right? Yes, Tony was able to rain down or rain up. That's a weird thing to say. But he was essentially able to throw his typical elbows and really slice and dice, but it wasn't like the Tony Ferguson of old, right? The way I kind of perceive this fight, it's very similar to this pattern we have been seeing as of late in Tony's matches, where, to be fair, he has a really good start on his feet, but at some point the opponent has analyzed his fight pattern, and we saw this at the end of the first round. Like, Paddy rung his bell quite a few
Mm-hmm.
times and was damn near close to finishing it in that first round. I think he was sinking hooks in and taking Tony's back at some point or another. No, it was pretty much a buzzer beater. Like, Tony survived that shit. If I recall correctly, Patty had him in the rear naked choke, but was unable to finish it somehow. But that being said, it might be time for Mr. Ferguson to call it quits. He didn't get finished to his credit, but like if it wasn't him, anybody else would have already been cut before this. So and to be fair, it's like aside from having, like he was interim champ, he got denied champ possibilities. But what hasn't he done at this point? Like, does he really have anything left to prove? I don't know. That's where I'm at with that. Should I take us into Rachmanov versus Thompson?
Yeah, man. Let's
Hey,
do it.
it's Shavkat Rachmanov. You already know what it is. Undefeated, like from Kazakhstan. He does what he does.
Does his job, man.
Bro, he's got that like Kazakhstani cowboy hat thing going on. Basically, anytime you see someone with a last name that ends with a V or like some type of sound, and they wear one of those hats or a hat similar to that hat from that region of Europe, it's gonna be a pro. You're not in for a great time. Wonder Boy Thompson speaks for himself. Just got his like 7th degree black belt in karate. Like it's Stephen Thompson. The man like has taken point fighting and honestly made a very successful career out of it inside of the UFC. With that being said, the way this fight went, yeah, it's it's just like
Yeah, I
it's,
mean,
it's like look, I can't tell you that there was like another outcome, but there's so much tape on Wonder Boy, and Shopcut is like the wrestling sambo background where it's like he's got strikes, he's got grappling, he's got it all, and he did the right thing. And I mean, like, you've seen Gilbert Burns and some other folk. Was it Kamaru too? Did he ever fight Kamaru?
who?
Wonder Boy?
No.
Like who? No, it was Bilal. Bilal,
Yeah.
sorry. Bilal basically kind of showed the blueprint and how to shut Wonder Boy down, but Wonder Boy's advantage lies in his being able to maintain his range and being able to shoot out that lead leg. And he can switch stances. So if you can basically stop him from using as long as weapons you can. And the thing is, I don't even really think Shavkat threw any strikes in that first round. He just straight up pressure crowded Wonder Boy into the fence and just grappled him down. And then in round 2, it was basically the same shit, but like Shavkat just like caught what did he duck underneath something and then like just caught the takedown like immediately. And this is the reason why this is I'm saying it like it's nothing, but it's actually really impressive because Wonder Boy's takedown defense is legitimate. Like legitimate. There was a point where Shafkat thought he had something by grabbing onto Wonder Boy's leg. Like had it been any other fighter, it would have been a wrap. But Wonder Boy was like, you think it's like this gives you power over me? like you think this gives you power over me? And like was able to get his leg out. But
Yeah, bro. He like hips.
like hips and like just the amount of balance this man has on one leg is otherworldly. His calf muscles are the truth. That's all I'm gonna say there. Um, yeah, ultimately Shafkat kind of like he puts Wonder Boy up against a fence, does a good job of kind of reaching behind Wonder Boy while Wonder Boy's kind of got his butt like sat on the canvas and he's wedged up against the fence. Shavkat kind of has a like 3/4 like technical mount where they kind of have a hook in, but they're also kind of pressuring you against the fence. If you know exactly what I'm talking about because fighters do this all the time, especially ones who are good at fence wrestling. But he's reaching behind Wonder Boy to handcuff Wonder Boy's right arm behind his back, and he uses that handcuff as a way to allow him to take now full control over Wonder Boy's back. He then proceeds to work his way to getting on top of Wonder Boy and cinches a rear naked choke. But the way he cinches it's like from a tabletop like position where you know, if they were on the floor, Shavkat's back would have been against the floor, but his back was in the air, but he was putting all this pressure on top of Wonder Boy's head and neck, and he cinched the choke and he tapped Wonder Boy, a man who has never been finished in the octagon. So yeah, Shavkat is still undefeated, man. And I think welterweight has been put on notice. Now, does Shavkat gain anything? I think he was already ranked higher than Wonder Boy, but I don't necessarily think Wonder Boy's stock goes down either. And on that note, I'll pass it over to Matt.
Yeah, Shavkat was getting some boos, and I think another person we got to put out there for blueprints on how to beat Wonder Boy is Tyron.
Ah,
You know,
yes, he
I
was the
know
other
he
one. Yeah,
definitely was not like within the, definitely wasn't a lot of people's favorite guy, but yeah, man, I think we got to really talk about how Tyron was able to effectively shut him down and was able to put him in a position where he wasn't able to be effective, like you said. And given in the rankings, they're right in front of each other. Shavkat is how do you say his name?
Shavkat.
Shavkat is was right in front of Stephen Thompson in the rankings, 5 and 6. So he was number 5. Stephen Thompson was number 6. Um, but regardless, I thought that it was a good performance, and then to find out later on that he went with a sub, um, because he tore a tendon in his ankle that he needed to actually go get surgery on, and he opted out of that just so he could still do this fight. So he didn't throw kicks because he didn't want to risk his ankle. But regardless, like Stephen Thompson is one of those guys that, even though the blueprint is out there, had to actually pull it off is a whole separate thing.
Yeah,
Because you're just like, okay, you want to make sure that he's not able to use his distance. Okay, well, you go ahead and you tell me how easy it is to close the distance on Wonder
on
Boy.
Wonder Boy. Yeah,
You let me know how easy that is for you. But yeah, I don't have anything to add outside of that. I felt like you covered it pretty well.
well, shit, you want to take us into the co-main?
Yeah, man. Our co-main event, we had Alexander Pantoja against Brandon Royval. This was actually a rematch to a fight that they had had previously prior to Pantoja becoming the flyweight champion. And when Brandon Royval was still just kind of trying to get back on the horse and get a victory, get a win under him. Man, overall, when you look at everything and just going through how this fight went and how a lot of these fights go, I'm gonna kind of sound like a broken record when I say this, but wrestling, man, Jesus, like it continues to prove itself to be a problem. And they made a mention that prior to this fight, Alexandre Pantoja, I'm sorry, had recently joined ATT, and that was very evident in the way that he fought, just in the technicality of his grappling, and in the ways that he was getting those takedowns, and the ways that he was maintaining top control, and even just his scrambling. Everything he did in terms of grappling kept him in this fight. And I think his the power in his hands, as well as his ability to virtually take down Brandon Royval at will, definitely kept Brandon from opening up in the ways that it seemed like he would have wanted to, and that he didn't really do until the 5th round.
Right.
Um, but I feel overall the grappling was the difference, man. Like Pantoja, just he was all over him, and he was able to keep him in positions where he could only be defensive. He couldn't be effective. He couldn't really throw strikes back. And if he could, they were like very superficial. Definitely, it was nothing that would deter him from trying to advance a position or anything like that. Like Brandon Royval was very rarely in a situation where he could even throw elbows. He was throwing like very short ranged hammer fists very short ranged internal hammer fist, like kind of uppercut style, but that's about it. Overall, I thought Pantoja, he performed like a champion. You know, even when he looked like he was tired, he still was able to pin this guy down to the mat and, you know, maintain control and threaten submissions and do a little ground and pound and really just try to get to the most dominant position possible. I mean, he got top mount on this dude like 3 different times.
Yeah, damn near every round, honestly.
Yeah, virtually. I like just right when I said three, damn near like 3 times, but you're right. Virtually every time he got him on the ground, you're absolutely right.
Like he was
But with that,
passing
that's
that
a great
guard.
transition to pass
Yeah.
it over to you because
Well,
there was a lot of grappling. So I
speaking
would
of
like you to
passing,
speak on that.
speaking of
Yeah.
passing, like fucking Pantoja was passing through Royval's guard like it was a hot knife through fucking butter. I'm not exaggerating. The amount of times he got mount and it looked effortless was crazy. But no, man, I think you did a good job covering the grappling because it was really just Pantoja like just annihilating Royval's guard and just making him look useless. And it's odd too because I mean it's not like we haven't seen the case of the smaller fighter overwhelming the taller fighter before, because we've seen too many instances of that. But the ease with which Pantoja was doing it was what was crazy. And I think to your point, makes this such a championship level performance. But we also, and not that we haven't, but we need to put some respect on Pantoja's chin. We saw this also during the Moreno fight, but that dude can. I mean, Royval caught him with a knee, and he just took that to the face like he was Broly walking through a key blast. Like it did not deter him at all. I feel like any other fighter that would have been a wrap. I feel like I've said that so many times today, but
Yeah, man.
it's just like, look,
It's applied.
I don't know, man. Like, I don't know what to say. He's the cannibal for a reason. Bro, I'm telling it to you like this, Matt. I don't know how Royval survived that first round.
Yeah. I
Let's just
don't
get
know
that out
either,
of the
to be
way. And it
honest.
was just, it's like you copy pasted that first round into 5 rounds. Yeah, Pantoja gasses out occasionally, but we've seen like that's also the way he fights too. Like there will be a little bit of a gas up, but make no mistake, if he gets a chance to shut you down, you're gonna get shut down. That yeah, great work on your first title defense, man. I got nothing else to add. Let's do main event time.
All right. Well, lead the way.
We had Leon Edwards versus some dude. Now,
Damn.
I'm gonna just put it like this. Leon had no choice but to win. Now, did I like the last round? The end, like the latter half of the last round? No. But I like that Leon won. Because I mean, look, you'll listen to podcasts, you'll watch social media comments, people be like, Colby doesn't actually act like that in real life, this, that, and third. But look, if that persona is the persona you're putting out there and that's not the real you, then you can't blame me for having the thoughts I have about you, right? Like that's, I don't know. I don't there are other ways you can make waves. There are other ways you can make a name for yourself. There are other ways to turn heel. But doing so in such a way that alienates, personally, I feel alienates so many fans of combat sports that aren't white is gross. And he clearly crossed a line during that press conference. And I wish that Leon kind of uncorked it a little bit more toward the end there. But at the same time, I remember mentioning this in the group chat. Like anytime we've seen a champion get rattled and angry, it usually does not end well, and we'll usually get a new champion as a result of the rattling, right? There are too many instances. One significant one, think Ronda Rousey versus Holly Holm, right? And to Holly Holm's defense, Holly didn't even do anything. Ronda had a lot going on in her life at that point, but it's neither here nor there. I'm just saying this to say, like, the right person won, and Leon, even leading up to the last part of that last round, he was putting on a fucking clinic on Kobe. But yeah, crazy. Like he was outclassing him in every fucking aspect. Even the wrestling, which Kobe's got the fucking US wrestling tattoo on his back, and he was like getting outclassed by Leon. Now, the one thing they pointed this out in the commentary, and I like super agree with, Leon shouldn't have tried to take advantage of any time he put Kobe down or anytime Kobe fucked up his takedown attempts. Leon should have been trying to get to his back because every time he went for the back take, that's when the situation got flipped. There was that one sick guillotine that Leon had, and he did the right thing when Kobe got out. Don't engage him. Stay on your feet and just keep beating him up some more. And bro, he put that right leg of Kobe's out of commission pretty quick at the start of the fight. That shit was fucked up. But yeah, I'm just happy Leon won. I'm gonna pass it over to you, Matt.
Same. Not much to add. Wasn't much, not really much to report. Kobe was a day late, dollar short. Wasn't fast enough to keep up with Leon. I felt like Leon really just not really was toying around with him. I felt like Leon definitely could have went harder, but he also did mention that his goal was to just like keep his head on straight and
Mm-hmm.
just try to stay clear minded. So obviously he could focus and win the fight. So, and I totally understand that just because of like TJ mentioned, lines were crossed and things of that nature. So, with that, I don't really know where Kobe goes after this. Leon obviously is still the champion. Um, there are other guys around, but I think at this point, the guy Leon might need to be worried about is how you say his name again, TJ? Shavat
Oh, Shavkat.
Shavkat. Yeah, I think the next guy in line is probably Shavkat as far as Leon is concerned. And as far as Kobe is concerned, I don't know. I mean,
Third straight title loss. So
third straight title loss. I think he finally has to fight Bilal, man.
mm,
Either he fights Bilal or Kamaru is gonna have to fight Bilal. Or you let Bilal fight Leon. You let him
mm-hmm.
get his rematch. Because Bilal, if we're looking at the rankings, Bilal's sitting at number 2. And, Shafkat is sitting at number 5. Now we don't know where he'll be by Tuesday, but
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
but yeah, those are my thoughts. Overall, I enjoyed the fights. I enjoyed the card. I thought the card overall delivered. It definitely wasn't as exciting as some of the other cards we've gotten in the last few weeks. And I'm not expecting all of them to be that either. So, I thought for what it was, everything worked out. Uh, my fight of the night.
Emmett
Oof.
Mitchell.
No, you know what? I'm not gonna lie to you. I think my fight of the night really might have been Pantoja.
Yeah, I can see that.
I
That was
mean, just because it was just
so
such a
one-sided.
yeah, it was so one-sided, but I also felt like the performance was just so dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to I used to be a guy that like really didn't have an appreciation for grappling. And now that I have, especially now that I have more of an understanding of it too, for me, it's just like when I'm seeing, especially seeing what we got a chance to see in that fight. It's like, man, you know what? To be able to force a position on somebody, keep them in that position, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
You now have to fight me here.
Yeah.
And if you can't make me not fight you here, too bad. Get over it. Because this is where you at now. And it just, sucks to suck. You know what I'm saying?
Get your weight up, rookie. Like,
Yeah, get your weight up, rookie. But like, it sucks to suck, but it is what it is, brother. Like, so, but that's all I got on it. I enjoyed it. What was your fight of the weekend? Or your fight of the night?
I mean, Emmett versus Mitchell was crazy to me. I
Yeah.
don't like the seizure, but dude, you gotta appreciate a one hitter quitter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I got.
All right. Well, with that, that's going to be another episode of the Now Mind You podcast, Combat Edition. We really appreciate you guys. We are done with the UFC for the remainder of the year. We will not have another UFC event until next year. On the boxing tip, however, we do have boxing that I will be covering next week. We have a pretty big card, actually, in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. We get Anthony Joshua versus Otto Valine. Co-main event is Deontay Wilder versus Joseph Parker. We also have on this card, we got Dimitri Bivol defending his titles against Lyndon Arthur. We got Flip Hergovic versus Mark Delamore. We also got Daniel Dubois versus Jarrell Miller. And we got Frank Sanchez versus Junior Fa. This is virtually, not even virtually, this is an entirely heavyweight card. This
Yeah.
card is going to be insane. People are definitely going to go to sleep. All of these fights are going to be, to me, on paper, just looking at them right here and just, again, seeing them on paper, all of these are fireworks. So hopefully they can deliver, and I'll be covering those for you guys next week. And with that, you guys be safe. You can follow us on social media. You can follow me at Matt Hambrick. That's MattHambricktj.
You can find me on Instagram at Tuss4Skate. That's TUSS number 4_SKATE. You can find Bryce on Instagram at Ashe Onta. That's AXE_ONCA. Bay Bay.
Bay. And you can find us at Now Mind You Podcast, wherever you like to get your podcast and wherever you like to get your social media, because we're in all of those places. And with that, we will see you guys next week. Peace out. Be safe.
Peace, y'all.